Let's do a little more balancing practice now that we've got the basics. If we look at, let's see, number 3 here, okay, we want to go ahead and start out by listing which elements we have. So if we split this into our reactants and our products, on the left side we have sodium, chlorine, and fluorine. And we need to count up how many elements we have on either side of the equation. So on the left side, I have 1 sodium, 1 chlorine, and 2 fluorines. And I know this by the subscripts or lack thereof in terms of sodium and chlorine's case. And on the product side, the right side of my arrow, I have 1 sodium, 1 fluorine, and 2 chlorine. So I clearly see that I'm not balanced because I don't have the same number of chlorines on both sides and I don't have the same number of fluorines. So all you do is you just pick one element and focus on that one, balance it, and move to the next one. So if we look at chlorine first, the left side has 1 chlorine and the right side has 2. So if I put a 2 here, 2 times my 1 chlorine is 2, and it also affects sodium, so 2 times my 1 sodium is 2. And remember, you're multiplying by the subscript, not the answer over here. So we've got our chlorines balanced, go team, right? Now let's fix our fluorines. On the left side I have 2, and on the right I have 1. So we need to fix this. I have 1 fluorine here, so 2 times my 1 fluorine is 2, but it also affects my sodium, which is great because I needed it to be 2 anyway. And now my sodiums are equal on both sides and fluorines are equal on both sides, and I'm set. I'm good to go. If we look at further examples, for example, number 5. Number 5 is the first example we've seen with a polyatomic ion, which you can clearly tell because of these parentheses here. And we see that NO3 is together on both sides. So instead of writing it out as silver, nitrogen, oxygen, magnesium, and chlorine, and really having just a large set of elements to work with, we can keep NO3 together because they're together on both sides of the equation, and that significantly shortens the amount of work that we're trying to do. So now if we count up our atoms, I have 1 silver on the left side and 1 on the right side. And if I look at nitrate, this 2 tells me that I have 2 of everything inside. So I have 2 of those, and the absence of parentheses and a 1 means that I only have 1 on the left side. And I have 1 magnesium on the left, 1 magnesium on the right, 2 chlorines on the left, and 1 chlorine on the right. So if we go ahead and, maybe let's just avoid the nitrates for now. Let's say we fix chlorine instead. If I change my chlorine, I'm going to pick the left side is going to need to be multiplied by 2. So 2 times 1 chlorine is 2, and 2 times my 1 silver is 2. And so now if I go and I fix my silvers, now that I've messed those up, I can put a 2 in front of the silver on the left side, and 2 times my 1 silver is 2, and 2 times my 1 nitrate will give me 2 nitrates. And I find myself balanced. I have 2 silvers on both sides, 2 nitrates, 1 magnesium, and 2 chlorines. They're equal on both sides. So I can say that I'm pretty pleased about this and I can be finished. Now, with number 7, we see that we have this oxygen on both sides, as we saw earlier, and we need to go ahead and try a slightly harder problem with it and see how we do. So let's go ahead and make some room for our inventory here and get started. So we see that we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And on the left side, I have 1 carbon, 4 hydrogens, and 2 oxygens. And on the right side, I have 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, and 3 oxygens. Now, remember how I mentioned solving oxygen last, okay? If you can always solve something before oxygen, that's generally very helpful. So let's fix our hydrogens first. The right side only has 2, so I'm going to start there and say 2 times 2 will change my answer to 4, which is perfect, but it also affects my oxygen. Okay, 2 times my 1 oxygen is 2, but I also have these 2 over here, so that actually changes my total to 4 oxygens, which is actually perfect. It evened out my numbers for me, and so now I can just put a 2 in front of my oxygen, and 2 times 2 is indeed 4. And I can see that I'm now balanced on all sides. If you really want a challenge, I recommend doing problem number 9 is a challenge problem. And if you can do it, you will be good to go for your final exam and your test and things of that nature. But continue to practice these problems and balancing, because we will be using them all year for our lessons.